Hello and welcome to Access Asia. Coming up, for protesters, it's a major victory and a lesson for the Prime Minister. You reap what you sow. India reverses 3 controversial farming laws after a year of protests. China's Evergrande, a property developer that's too big to fail with housing that's too plentiful to fill. We'll look at the headache for homeowners. And a trip to the Ring of Fire, with a day-and-a-half trek up Indonesia's Mount Rinjani, the active volcano, also a tourist destination. Well, after more than a year of massive, non-stop protests, India's Prime Minister has agreed to repeal 3 controversial laws affecting the country's agricultural industry. It was a rare show of contrition for Narendra Modi. Under his leadership, India has become increasingly authoritarian, but the reversal comes ahead of key state elections, in which Modi's ruling party could see its grip on power slip. Diya Gupta went to meet protesters the day of the announcement.
We are at Singhu border, where farmers have been protesting against 3 controversial laws for over 1 year. This morning, however, Prime Minister Narendra Modi decided to repeal all 3 laws. Farmers here are celebrating, but also somewhat confused at the surprising new developments.
1 साल के बाद बैठे-बैठे एक बहुत बड़ी खबर आज मिली सुबह 9 बजे ये ऐलान हो चुका लेकिन बाबा नानक ने कृपा की थी या तो मोदी देखो दिमाग में आया तो चलो उसने कानून
खबर सुन के ऐसा महसूस रहा कि जैसे कि हमारे जले पे नमक छिड़का गया। अगर साल पहले कर देते तो जो हमारे 800 शहीद हुए हैं जवान, जो हमारे वीर शहीद हुए हैं वो शहीद ना होते।
The farming reforms were passed last year in an attempt to liberalize the Indian agricultural sector. But farmers weren't warned, nor were they willing to open up their industry to private players. Many claim that the withdrawal of the reforms may be politically motivated by upcoming elections in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, 2 states at the heart of the protests.
उन्होंने ये बात क्यों नहीं बोली कि मुझे बहुत दुख हुआ मेरे किसान भाइयों का जो शहीद हुए। फिर इन्होंने एक वर्ड बोला था जो कि इनको पूरे किसान से माफ़ी मांगनी चाहिए। किसान अकेला सिख नहीं है, मुस्लिम नहीं है, हरियाणा के नहीं है। इन्होंने कहा था आंदोलन जीवी, जो खून चूसने वाले कीड़े।
करारी हार हुई है। मोदी जी को लग गया तमिलनाडु, केरल, बंगाल के बाद नंबर यूपी का है, नंबर पंजाब का है, नंबर उत्तराखंड का है, नंबर मणिपुर का है, नंबर गोवा का है, जहां पे इनकी हार तय है। अब ये बचाव मुद्रा में आ गए।
Through the duration of this protest, members of the Modi-led government have been accusing the farmers of being international protesters and terrorists. So the repeal has left many wondering, is this simply a political ploy to gain the trust of this huge agricultural vote bank?
Well, Chinese real estate giant Evergrande has been struggling to meet interest payments on its loans. If it collapses, some of its partner firms could be driven to bankruptcy, prospective homebuyers could lose their deposits, and some banks would lend less money. A credit crunch in the world's 2nd biggest economy. Property developers in China have created an oversupply. By some estimates, there is enough empty property in the country to house over 90 million people. Oliver Ferry has more.
A forest of concrete, cranes at a standstill, and bare scaffolding. It's a ghost town like thousands of others in China. This site in Jurong in the east of the country was supposed to be a prototype for a model city built around an amusement park, a project mounted by the property giant Evergrande. Paralysed by 260 million euros of debt, the group is unable to pay its builders. That has left this 300-hectare building site immobile for more than 2 months, and nobody lives here. Or almost nobody. Chen Zheng moved here 6 months ago, cut off from the world.
When I bought my flat, I hoped that there would be schools, shops, a theme park. But there's nothing like that. It's just deserted everywhere. I have to take my car just to find something to eat.
No services, no neighbours, and an investment that is for now in negative equity. Since the project was launched 4 years ago, the price of the property has dropped by more than 1/3. Chen still considers himself lucky.
I'm fine, at least I have a place to live. There are lots of people who've signed a contract and paid a deposit. Some have taken out a loan, but they can't get the property certificates.
Like Shenzhen, most of the buyers have paid up in full off-plan, but they don't know if they'll ever get the keys to their homes. In September, around 100 buyers demonstrated outside Evergrande's head offices in Shenzhen, demanding to be reimbursed. A scene of anger and desperation that is increasingly rare in China. The developer was to deliver more than 1.5 million apartments, but barely 60,000 are believed to have been handed over since early July. At the Jurong amusement park, the only building open houses this estate agents. In the showroom, nobody's looking up at the ads on the big screens. For the handful of vendors still here, this has become an everyday reality.
有房子，对啊，现在还卖。我刚刚看外面好像有些没有，已经停止施工了嘛。有部分基本上已经工地里面有的开始复工了吧。所以现在还在施工吗？地块里面有的已经复工了。已经复工了。
It's an optimistic vision of the site's future. This investor still believes in it.
I'm a bit worried, but I know what Evergrande's plans are. And I'm sure they'll find a solution no matter what. They can solve their problems.
But cameras are not welcome here, and Evergrande does not give interviews. In Chinese state media, the troubles of the world's most indebted developer are barely mentioned. Just a declaration by the Chinese central bank in mid-October that sought to assure investors.
Financial institutions are not a high risk because of Evergrande. The risk of spreading to the rest of the financial sector is broadly manageable.
But real estate constitutes almost a third of China's GDP. Were Evergrande to go bankrupt, it would bring down with it thousands of suppliers, builders, manufacturers of concrete and steel, even furniture shops. In all, Evergrande owes them at least 90 million euros. Several creditors have posted unpaid invoices on social media and speak of their distress. How much longer can small and medium-sized businesses hold out? It's hopeless. Evergrande is not paying its bills. I tried reporting it to the authorities but got no response. Evergrande says it creates 3.8 million jobs through its orders every year. On the Jurong site, a handful of workers with little else to do gather scrap. They have not been paid since August.
Do you see these poles? We're dismantling the scaffolding. If there were no financial problems, we would continue to build the buildings. I still don't know if I will get my salary or not.
At least I still have a job, even if I don't know when I will get paid. The company has no money at the moment. What can I do?
After 30 years of debt-financed frenetic urbanisation, Evergrande is far from an isolated case. The ratings agency Standard & Poor's says that as many as 1/3 of Chinese property developers are on the verge of bankruptcy.
Well, Indonesia has the most active volcanoes in the world. In fact, more than 197 million Indonesians live within 100 kilometers of one, and 9 million are within just 10 kilometers. And some of these are also tourist destinations. Jenny Shen takes you atop Mount Rinjani.
From its peak of 3,726 meters, you can take in the entire island of Lombok. Sitting on Indonesia's Pacific Ring of Fire, Rinjani is the country's second highest volcano.
For Rinjani, let's go!
A month ago, these young Indonesians didn't know each other. But their shared fascination for the volcano brought them together today to embark on a journey to the top.
Climbing the Rinjani is going to be amazing.
The trip takes a good day and a half. It's a test of endurance, not for the faint of heart. But the reward at daybreak is second to none.
It takes so much effort, but once we're here, we forget we're tired.
I told myself, just do it. It's so beautiful at the top.
In the 13th century, a gigantic eruption buried the entire island and formed this caldera, which houses an active smoking cone at its center. Near the lake that formed as a result, the thermal springs are a hidden delight for the hikers. The water is almost 40 degrees.
We were so tired from the hike. This bath is just what we need. It relaxes our muscles so it doesn't ache anymore.
Rinjani's last eruption was in 2016, and while nobody can predict its next activity, residents in nearby towns are not too concerned. They're happy cultivating fields that are rich in a variety of fruits and vegetables, in part thanks to volcanic ash.
The volcano, with each eruption, spews a layer of ash 5 centimeters thick. This is very good for the soil. It makes things grow. You can plant anything here and it will grow.
Credited for forming Lombok and feeding its people, Rinjani is considered a deity, worshipped by the locals.
These offerings are to thank our gods for creating our world, for creating Rinjani and the lake. It gives us so much. It gives us work, for the farmers but also the guides.
Before the COVID pandemic, the volcano would welcome up to 90,000 visitors every year.
And finally, it's that time of the year. Festive winter lights were turned on in the northern Japanese city of Sapporo. Trees, ornaments, and monuments have been decked out with a total of 730,000 lights. Now, the annual spectacle has been attracting tourists during the festive winter season since 1981, but this year's ceremony canceled because of the coronavirus pandemic. Well, that's it for this edition. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.